We have 2 minutes to go to our start. We are on time. All runners, we need you in that starting chute. All runners, please, to the starting chute. Runners still hold the position behind the mats, please. Hold the position behind the mats. Please stay behind your mats.
My name is Jean Cater. I started running at 62, and I was overweight, and I had lost 15 pounds on my own. Started seeing a trainer to help me with more weight loss, and he encouraged me to run as part of my weight loss program. And also, I had always admired runners, watching runners, and never thought I could because of my smoking history. What I enjoy about running is the sense of power that I get from it. I've never felt very powerful, but running makes me feel strong, unbeatable. And I also like the way it makes my legs look. I've done many 5Ks, or well, quite a few in 2.5 years, quite a few 5Ks, a couple of 10Ks. I did a horrific 10-miler in Stowe. It was a beautiful race, but it was tough. It was a good third of it was uphill, but I finished it with a pretty good time. Done 3 half marathons. I think that's about it. I'll always remember my first race, which was the Vermont Remembers Run 5K. The excitement, I'll never feel that again probably, but that was special. After running a half marathon, I had in the back of my mind the idea of someday running a marathon. And I was reading an article about running marathons and asked my trainer if he thought I could do it. And he said, of course you can. He said he could give me a schedule for it, training schedule. I chose Vermont City Marathon because it will be my first marathon, and it's got the name of my home state in it. It's local. My goals, the VCM, are first of all to finish and to get a feeling for what the marathon is all about, the experience.
My name's Lee Crone, and as a young kid, I wasn't really much of an athlete. When I was in school, it was all about team sports, and that just never really resonated with me. Really started ramping it up when I was in middle school and high school, started hiking with friends, discovered the magic of cycling, and that was really my main sport for many years. Running came into my life more when my daughter was born, and I needed some athletic activity that was much more time efficient and more focused. And so I started running short distances, and then I discovered the magic of baby joggers. And I started running with her so that both of us could get out, give my wife a break and get us out together. And then I started running 5K events, and sometimes I would run with her in the jogger. And that was a lot of fun for all of us to get out and do those things. I used to say that 5K was the longest I was ever going to run. It hurt my knee. I didn't like it all that much. It was often hot. And one thing led to another, and I started doing a little bit longer distances. I was with a special friend for a number of years who was an Ironman athlete, and I really had to ramp it up and start running longer distances to help her train. And one thing led to another, and suddenly we were doing 10K events and then half marathons together. And started entering in the relay at the Vermont City Marathon and ran that several years with different friends, two-person relay, and realized that half marathon was a great distance for me. Could do it a little over 2 hours, maybe under 2 once, and feel good about the day. And then one year we were going to do the VCM as a two-person relay, and I got to the halfway point and said, you know, I feel really good. Maybe I should just keep going. And you got to get back to the waterfront anyway, so I figured I might as well at least run 2 more miles back to the waterfront. And I still felt really good. And I said, well, what do you think if I just keep going? And I hadn't really trained for a marathon, and long story short, I ended up doing the whole distance. And then a year or two ago, I was getting close to turning 60, and I really wanted to do something special for that event, and decided I would train for a marathon, but really do it right. And so I worked hard on it all last year, and Mount Desert Island Marathon was last October, right on my birthday weekend. And made arrangements, went up there, and just rocked it. I couldn't believe how well it went. And so my running career wasn't something I necessarily started to do for running. It started as a time-efficient way to have exercise with my very young daughter and things we could do together. And one thing led to another, and I've been running quite regularly for this past 5, 6, 7 years.
What prompted you to want to run Vermont City Marathon this year?
The community is just so incredibly supportive. I mean, Run Vermont does such a great job organizing this event. Just the whole thing is just there's just such wonderful positive energy, the whole route. You know, getting out on the Beltway, you get to see people in both directions, so that's always very interesting. Coming up Battery Street with the Taiko drummers, coming into the parks where people are cheering, the neighborhoods in the North End where people are just cheering, and the bands playing, and people handing out ice pops and watermelon slices. Last year I didn't run it at all and helped out VCM with photography. This year's the 30th anniversary. That's a big special event for them, and I decided, well, last year went so well, let's give it a try, and let's see if we can do the hometown event and do it well. So I also work as a photographer, and one thing I love to do is covering events from within the event and not just sitting on the sidelines taking pictures, whether it's a cycling event, kayaking, running. Running in particular, it's a little easier and safer to be running with a camera. And for me, it's just part of my whole karma, part of my whole energy. I love the passion of photography. I love the passion of capturing events live from within an event. Nobody else does that. Does it interrupt my flow? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but it actually gives me these quick little breaks that I think probably are helpful for me. Just 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there. You know, I'm not going to be an Olympic caliber athlete. I'm not really worried about my time. My goal is to feel good and enjoy the ride. So for me, running with a camera just adds to the whole joy of being a part of the event and capturing images that no one else would ever capture. And so I've worked with Run Vermont and other organizations. I love volunteering my time and my expertise to do that. And it's just part of the whole fun for me.
My name is Christy Polsucki, and I've been running since 2002. I started running to lose weight, and I figured that was the most efficient way to do it, and so I got a treadmill and I started running, and I could barely run like a minute at a time, and this is before the Couch to 5K programs, and so I just sort of got on the treadmill and would run, walk until I got to run for an hour straight, which I remember being just so amazing, and I started losing weight, started getting a little easier, and then I mostly stuck to like treadmill running and a little outdoor running, and then I moved to Vermont in 2007, and there's such a running community here, and I did my first race. It was a 5K turkey trot, and there was not many runners who were participating, and I remember they had a whole bunch of turkeys donated, and so almost everybody got a turkey, which was great. But and that was my first race, and then I started meeting more runners and doing more running outside, and I just really fell in love with running. I love the friendships that I build through running, and I've had lots of different training partners over the years, and some of them have moved away, but we keep in close touch, and I just really enjoy that. So as far as my weight loss goes, I lost 30 pounds in Massachusetts before moving here to Vermont, and then I lost the other 20 here in Vermont through running and also a nutritionist. And so I lost a total of 50 pounds. And I've just sort of, kept this weight and just kept going, and, really enjoy distance running. So I've done 5 Vermont City Marathons and 11 marathons total, and I still remember the first Vermont City Marathon as being my most memorable, because I never thought I could run that far, and I did it. And another one was Savannah, Georgia, where I just felt like I was in a zone, and I just felt really strong and powerful, and I think it was one of my personal bests at the time. But VCM still is one of my favorites. It's familiar streets, it's people I know cheering us on, and it's just such a celebration of running for everyone, whether you're running the full or the half or any of the relays. It's just a great experience, and every year the positive memories just pile on, and so it's just a fun community event. And I've also done 2 50Ks and 1 50 miler, and hopefully in July I'll be doing a 100K. And so this VCM is part of a larger plan of training for the Vermont 100 and doing the 100K. But my goal for this marathon is I've had, I think, 3 marathons where I've topped out at a 3:48, so I'm looking for a sub 3:48 if it's possible. So those are my goals.
Morning!
Are you ready to run?
I'm ready.
My name is Raelle Barlow, and I started running probably when I was about 13 years old. At that time, my friends and I were a lot more interested in horseback riding than anything. So the first race I entered was something called a ride and tie, and that involves 2 people and 1 horse on a team. So you take turns riding and running over the distance of the race. And I entered the race with a friend. We got completely lost, had to be found out in the woods, so didn't end up finishing the race that year. But we entered again the next year and did much better. We still got lost, but we found our way back onto the trail that year and actually tied for first place. And that was the last race I did for a very long time. But I kept running, mostly for exercise and to keep myself sane and happy. There have been certainly times in my life where I stopped running for periods of time, either due to injury or because life got too busy, didn't have the time. But I always end up going back to it because I enjoy it, and nothing else makes me feel quite as happy as running regularly. But I was never really very interested in doing any sort of longer distances or races. And then after I moved to Vermont, and I think it was 2010, some friends signed up for a relay team for VCM and asked me to join. And I'm not sure I even knew what a marathon was at the time, let alone did I have any idea that I would ever run one. But running it as a team in the relay was a lot of fun. And it was really inspiring to be running next to people that were doing the full distance marathon, and inspired me to try to do the half distance, which I did the next couple of years, and then ultimately did the full marathon distance at VCM. And now I've run VCM 4 times and a total of 10 marathons and a few longer distance races, with the longest distance being 50 miles so far. And I love running VCM, partly because it's home and it's a beautiful course, and having a spring marathon is really great for your motivation to get out there and run in January around here. But mostly I love VCM because the crowd support there is just really fantastic, both the other runners and the spectators. It's great to have that support when you're out there on the course. In particular, I remember 2 years ago when it was impossibly hot to be trying to run a marathon, and everyone was out in all the neighborhoods with their hoses running and their sprinklers on and handing out ice and freeze pops to the runners to keep us all going throughout the race. And even though I didn't end up getting an official time that year because they called the race, it will forever be one of my most memorable races that I've done. Just feeling so grateful for all the support of people out there running it, and wishing that I could thank every single person out there with their sprinkler on and a freeze pop for me. And this year I'm running VCM, so for the 5th time. I don't have any real goals other than to have fun. This year I'm running a longer distance run, 100 kilometers later in the summer, which will be the longest distance I've ever done. So right now my training is really focused on getting a lot of miles and not worrying too much about how fast I'm going. Which means I probably won't be running the race with my training partner, Christy, because I think she's setting a goal for herself for this marathon. Christy and I started running together a few years ago. Before I met her, I mostly ran by myself. It just seemed easier to not worry about scheduling with other people and being accountable to other people's goals, and didn't have anybody really who ran the same pace as me was another big factor. And then when Christy and I started running together, it's been really great, I think, for my training, because we have a similar pace, but she definitely pushes me to run faster and stick with schedules and training goals, and has made me a better runner for sure.
These are some of my shoes, my running shoes. Some of them are worn out, but I can't let them go. I still wear them. Some women collect fancy shoes, high heels and stuff, and runners, this is pretty much, I think, what we all spend our money on. Running does take over your living space. Here's my foam roller and my strap for stretching. Right here is one of my favorite post-run stretching spaces on the floor. And some of my running shirts hanging up on the bars in the kitchen. Every room has something in it, running stuff. This is Reuben, my little buddy, who I adopted in South Carolina when I was taking care of my sick mother. And I have a couple videos of him like flipping that lid up. It's ridiculous. I don't know why. Another great toy is his iced tea bottle. Whoa. It's okay. He's like, he says, I'm gonna get that camera more than anything, I think.
this actually, this is just a sort of a handy reference guide here. So your threshold run, or AKA tempo run, it trains the body to perform better when at or near its anaerobic threshold. And it's typically, on average, 25 to 30 seconds slower than your current 5K race pace. So it's often referred to as a comfortably hard pace. So your breathing is elevated, your shortness of breath is elevated, but it's certainly not all out. So this particular type of work I'm having to do here, by doing a 1 mile tempo run in the beginning, then doing your easy pace miles in the middle, and then doing another tempo run at the end, that trains your body to perform better under fatigue, which is helpful during those last 6.2 miles.
Yep.
So what happens is, so when you land on your heel, those forces that come up your leg, and then you slap down onto the forefoot to propel yourself forward, and that sends other forces up the leg, and you rely mostly on muscle power to propel yourself forward. When you're outdoors and running mid-foot and forefoot landing repeatedly, you're actually using gravity to help you out because you have a little bit of a forward lean in the process. So on the treadmill, it's hard to have that forward lean because it's not really as natural as it is when outdoors. So what I focus on is really just emphasizing that stride frequency. Stepping quicker, aiming for the 85 to 90 right foot strike range, and visualizing that there are hot coals in front of you and you have to step quickly and lightly across them without getting burned. Hot coals? Yeah. So, and I translate this to, or relate this to the same thing with the speed work, is that regardless of what your goals are, if you can move yourself forward as efficiently as possible, you're going to enjoy that experience much more. So even if, becoming really choky isn't your goal, it's still going to help you enjoy your running experience. Yeah.
So this is my medal holder. My friend made it for me for my 40th birthday, which was about a year ago, a little over. And in the front I keep my most memorable races. And so the Vermont City Marathon, the first one I did, is up in front in 2010. And then also the Savannah Marathon. I keep that there because I remember how strong I felt and how powerful I felt in that one. And then I also keep the Vermont 50 miler that I did because that's the furthest I'd ever run as of yet. And so I keep those up front. It also functions as a wind chime a little bit. And yeah. So each running season I like to incorporate some strength training into my program. So usually I do that at the gym, but I realize as my mileage increases that my ability to get to the gym and do classes decreases. And so I've created this list of exercises that I can pick a handful of them and I can do them at home. And I work out for about 30 minutes just to sort of maintain my strength during the training season.
Here's our bulletin board of races for the last year. Myself and my honey, Christopher. Here's his bib right next to mine. We put these up every year. We do the cat and mount running series. We put those up. The 100 on 100. Possibly my favorite day of the year, the 100 on 100. But these are all our bibs for the last year. The sign up for this year, we're both already signed up for VCM this year, so we'll have a whole new board of bibs soon. Here is our display of medals for the last year or so. We, every season, put our medals up for our races for the year. So pretty soon these will go away because it'll be a new season and we'll be filling up the shelf again. But here's VCM and all the other races that were done by myself and Christopher this last year. This is Chris's Vermont 100K finisher shoe.
This is the race I will be attempting to do this year, so hopefully we'll have another horseshoe on the table to go with all the other medals. This is what I've been doing with our past year's medals. I started this project a few years ago where I take the medals and make them into Christmas tree ornaments so that every year at Christmas time we decorate our tree with our race medals. It's been a little tricky. Some medals are quite hefty. They tend to weigh the branches down. And we have to be very careful when we de-decorate the Christmas tree because we have come close to losing some medals that way when the tree goes out the door. But I think we've been able to keep them all so far. So this is what we do with our past medals.
Back in 1989, a group of local runners just felt strongly that this was really an amazing place for a marathon and a marathon relay. And they came together with a little bit of funding and a local bank supporting it, and away they went with a few hundred runners, and the rest is history. Certainly has grown the size of the field. We're not necessarily at our peak for marathon. That happened perhaps maybe 8 years ago. But certainly with our relays, we're about 8,000 total runners on the course. It's really about course capacity. So between the half and half relay and the 3 to 5 person relay, which was the original relay, and the marathon, we end up with about 4,000 runners on the course at any given time, with a total of 8,000 runners. The first 3 to 5 person relay happened right with the beginning of the marathon back in 1989, and we do think that we were the first relay in conjunction with a marathon in the country. So pretty exciting, claim to fame there. And then what used to be called the 2 person relay, we call the half and half relay, began in 2004. And it was only, I think, 100 teams, and now we go upwards of 1,000 teams for that.
Well, I moved up to Burlington in 1987. I had lived in Boston for a couple of years. I had lived in New Hampshire before that, and I had been running and racing down in Boston with these fairly large races that were quite well organized, and I came up here and it seemed like there was something that was needed, something lacking in terms of the size of the events and the sort of the quality of the events. So I got involved with the running community right away and started helping out with some of the local races. I remember the Green Mountain Marathon was one that I worked on pretty quickly, and I started running road races as soon as I got up here and got to know all the people that were the key people up here, and very quickly we started talking about the thoughts that I had about having a larger scale race in Burlington, and there seemed to be some interest. So I started holding some meetings, and we started taking a look at what the options would be and what we would need to get: sponsorship, access to the city being, signing off on it and so forth. And we made our list, and we found out who was involved, who was interested in working on it and doing very specific tasks. You needed somebody who was going to do the marketing, and somebody was going to do the course management and those sorts of things. And we came up with a core group of people pretty quickly, 5-7 people that were meeting for about 5-6 months to develop the concept. Then we got to the point where we sort of had to come up with specifics. We had to figure out, well, what was the course going to be? How are we going to market this? How are we going to get some sponsorship for it? Because if we didn't have sponsorship money, then it was going to be hard to promote the race and have prize money. We wanted to have prize money, and we were hoping really for some good times, people coming here and running well, so that people didn't see this as a race in the Green Mountains. This was actually in Burlington, and that's one reason why we called it Vermont City Marathon, was to give people a sense that this was not a mountainous race. And in fact, it was not, it was a pretty flat course overall, and we designed it that way. There were some hills, but not many, and that was the whole idea, was to have a race that people could run a good fast time on and enjoy it, and have it go through parts of the city where there would be good crowd support. I mean, we were concerned that the relay didn't overshadow the marathon, and so that's the primary reason that in the earliest years it was limited in terms of the number of people that could run in the relay teams, because we wanted to make sure that the focus was on the marathon. And yet each year the relay has been bigger in total than the marathon, and that's worked out well for the race. And our concerns that maybe marathoners would feel like, well, why are these guys out here with me? They're a distraction. It was actually a very supportive atmosphere and environment that developed, where people, were helping. The relayers were helping the marathoners, and in many cases, the marathoners are ahead of relay teams. And the best marathoners usually beat the best relay team. But even if you go down the line, the relays, are usually interspersed, because people are doing the relay because they just want to do it for fun with their friends, and they're not as concerned with time as some of the marathoners who've been training year-round.
Well, Mo Brown got me to bring in my bag of shirts, old Vermont City Marathon shirts today, and it was fun pulling these out of the bins in the closet and back at home and getting them in. So we were cotton back in those days. That's what it was. Tech shirts now are also fancy with our shirts, but yeah, cotton was great. Served us for so long, and looking a little ratty now. Some of them. We've got the original 1989 shirt laid out here, and we had that designed for a couple of years, kind of a splash stripe across it. And then 92 or 91 or 92 is the first year that we kind of went to a design that many people will recognize here. It's got our cityscape in the background, the mountains, the Adirondacks, I believe they are, with Lake Champlain in them, and then a field of runners in front of that. And that field of runners, oh gosh, Bank of Vermont, yep, they were the original sponsor of the race, and then they were purchased by or merged with, I'm not sure, Bank of Boston, and then KeyBank became the leader of that banking chain, and now we're with People's United Bank, and they've our local banks have treated us great for 30 years in here. We really appreciate all the support, not just the money side of things, but the people they bring in it, the energy in the community, so that's great. So yeah, geez, Bank of Vermont, how about that? Long time. Anyway, 92, and we've got a bunch of runners in there, and that's actually from a picture that was taken that was in the Free Press the day after the 1989 race, and I recognize a few people in there. On the far, on the right side as you're looking at it, that's Steve Herrero, who's a longtime runner in the area here, was a very competitive runner back in the day. Doreen Friedman from Montreal is in there somewhere, and unfortunately I've forgotten a lot of the other names. I think maybe Art Fowler, who is a teacher at Essex High these days and still very active in local running, more on the high school level of things. He's in there too. So I just missed getting in that picture. I was off to the side of those guys. So moment of glory thwarted, unfortunately. But yeah, that was good, and we've sort of maintained similar design to that for many years in that. Another funky one we had early on. For 1 year, only 1995. I always liked this one. I thought it was different. Crazy mountains right there. It looks a little bit more like the Rockies than the Green Mountains. But yeah, we got that one, and then just a whole pile here. So it was fun to get a chance to pull them out, and I've had my first year finisher medal in here too. Back going 1989. Yep. They don't look like that anymore either. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun years, and got a lot of shirts to show for it, if nothing else.
I went out for my 17-mile run last weekend and was only able to run about 6 miles because of foot pain. And I went to my chiropractor and she determined that it was anterior ankle impingement syndrome. So now I'm undergoing treatment for that, and I've had to back off on my running for the time being.
I'm having Jean do some cross-training while she's dealing with her foot injury. Since running aggravates the condition, she needs to have an alternate method to keep her fitness level up. And using the elliptical is a great way to do that because it's low impact and it allows her to simulate the stride frequency she has when she's running.
Get a runner set, and then you'll hear the horn. Those are your 2 commands. Please move on the horn. Super excited to have you guys out here. Great tailwind today. Good day for running fast. I wish I had a bib on, and it's even more than I was ashamed to have a bib on. All right, guys, you can pull it right up here, okay? Runner set!
So I felt really strong during the run. The wind was at our back for most of the way, and then, you know, with the hills at the end, the wind was at our faces, but it felt really good.
And I feel good anytime I can keep up with Christy. I definitely thought I was going to be slower out there today between what was supposed to be freezing rain in the forecast. I feel like today went really well, all in all.
So after a strong showing at the Half Unplugged, I ended up getting plantar fasciitis immediately afterwards. And I went to go see my PT, and she recommended some low-impact exercises to keep my conditioning up. And so I've been doing some cross-training and trying to do some faster tempos on low-impact exercises. And luckily I've done several 20+ mile runs, and so hopefully, with the 3:48 goal time still in the back of my mind, my goal is to have fun, finish, and stay healthy.
Because my foot and ankle are feeling better, I'm here on Battery Street doing hill repeats because hills have never been one of my strengths. Also, I've found that taking short walk breaks as I'm running gives my foot a little bit of extra stretch and a little bit of relief. It allows me to run greater distances.
We have a number of, what we consider iconic things about our event. Certainly, the assault on Battery, we call it, running up Battery. And, it's a hill, certainly. I think the taiko drummers that are there, that we place there, certainly make it a lot more fun and enjoyable and something to look forward to. We think that Church Street, you get to run, up and down that twice. And all the people that are there, we've got the House of Lame, which are the drag queens. It's something that you're not getting in lots of other races. We have a really nice mix of an urban feel, a residential feel, and then certainly on the last 4 miles being along the lake, where you get lake views and shade. So really getting that nice mixture. We are a Boston qualifying race and course, and we're actually quite a fast course. So if you compare times to other races, all over the country, we have some of the fastest times in the country. So if you come to our race fit, and that's something that's in your sights, you have a very good chance of getting your BQ or certainly getting your PR. We've definitely gotten all kinds of scenic awards. We did just get an award from folks at Bib Brave as the top 20 scenic races in the country, up there with Big Sur and the like. And like I said, some of the, downtown areas, maybe not as scenic, but there's still trees and beautiful buildings, but then a lot of fantastic scenery to be had. And I think especially in that last 4 miles, being able to run down the Burlington Greenway and be able to see the lake and finish in Waterfront Park, where you're looking over Lake Champlain and you're looking over the Adirondacks. There's not that many races that can offer that, so we feel very lucky.
So the VCM course is a lot faster now than it originally was 30 years ago. What you're looking at now is the map from the first 2 years, our course map. Bill Everett was the measurer for that one and part of the design team. And they did a great job to come up with a course that got us all the highlights in Burlington, which I think was a real goal of the early course. You want the Church Street Marketplace. You want the bike path. You want the city's parks. The first course was a 2-loop special, went all the way out the Beltline. Now we only do about 2 miles on the Beltline and then turn around. It's about 3.5 miles total. So all the way out the Beltline, they did a 15-mile loop and then about an 11-mile loop. So all the way out the Beltline, all the way to the end of North Ave, down to Oakledge Park, Flint Ave back to downtown, and then they went out and did a second loop of just the northern end of that. The challenge with that they got away from was because right at the end in the last mile, you had to climb from Waterfront Park up to Church Street, and that's really tough and slows runners down, obviously. So we had 2 years of that course, and then we switched in 1991. We moved over to course number 2. The highlight of that is it started pretty much where we start now. But instead of finishing at Waterfront Park, we finished at Battery Park. Waterfront Park wasn't completed by the city yet. It was still in construction phase and growing grass and all the other things that have to be done to make it the fantastic park it is today. A good course. We started with the clover leaf design with the hill section, and then out and back on the Beltline, and then through the south end of town, and then to the north on the bike path and back North Ave. So that was the challenge, that you had a big climb at about mile 21 for that course. It made for things slow for sure coming in and more challenging, but not a bad design for them. In 1993, we finally were able to get it down into Waterfront Park for the finish. The city finished that project and was able to do that. So our beginning was similar. We started at Battery Park, did the hill section of Burlington, out and back on the Beltline, and then a loop down to the south end of town. Ran out near Burton on Industrial Ave, Burton Snowboards. We've taken that out of the course to avoid some street crossings. And then back north end of town and in. And then I believe in 2000, I'm a little fuzzy on whether it was exactly 99 or 2000, but I think it was 2000, we switched to the course that we have now, which one of the big goals of that was to cut down the amount of time that we were on the Beltline. It's runners' least favorite part of the course. I personally really like running out there because it's such a unique experience. It's a once-a-year thing. When else can you go run on the highway out there? It's just not happening. And then moved down to our existing course, which I think went in 2016, was I believe our first year. And that's where we do a two-way on Pine Street now. The orange sections are our new course. The blue sections are our old course in a couple of areas. And the main reason for that was the bike path from Oakledge Park back to downtown is very narrow. There's the railroad fence, and there's the beach right next to it, the beach fence on the other side. So as far as our ability to get emergency personnel out there, really was very, very challenging for them. Plus you had two-person relay runners, half and half relay now, who had just gotten tagged in at Oakledge Park. They're fresh. They're just starting their leg. They're ready to run fast, probably faster than their average pace. And the challenge is that they then run into a lot of marathoners who have settled into their pace and five-person relay runners who have also settled into their pace. So we moved the race back out Lakeside Ave to Pine Street. We've got a two-way there that has worked very well the first couple of years we've done it. Doesn't really add any climbing to the course, so doesn't make it any slower, doesn't make it any faster either, but it's already a fast course. If you're looking for a fast course to run with great community support, this is a really good course to run at.
When they finished the waterfront, I was asked by the rec department to consider bringing the finish line to the waterfront. Well, to me, that made sense. And Battery Park was never really big enough, and the waterfront actually was a bigger locale for the finishing. That was a big change. The other big thing is we changed how the relay was developed, how it was managed actually the day of the race. When Gordon started the race, Gordon said, well, each leg should be 5 miles. So they'd find the 5 mile mark, and the last one was 6.2. The first 4 were 5. And that stopped making sense because you had to bus people to the 5 mile mark or the 10 mile mark or the 15 mile mark. And I said, well, why don't we, it actually was one of my ideas back then. I said, why don't we just have the exchange in the parks, in places that make sense, and not worry about what distance it is. So we kind of designed the relay exchanges. So what I was thinking is actually today, if you look at the course, and the course that I ended up as race director, that we ended up using, that's really pretty much today's course. It's gone through some changes because of road changes and neighborhoods and little things, but pretty much it's the same course. And I've always thought of it as kind of a clover leaf, where Battery Park is the center and the waterfront, sort of the center, and you go out and back. And I used to say one of the key things in anybody who came to visit our race in the marketing material, especially to out-of-staters, is when you come watch this race, you actually can see your runner come by 4 times in Battery Park. At the start, at the 3-mile mark, at the 10-mile mark, and at the 16-mile mark. And then you see him at the finish. And that's, how many marathons can you drive and you say your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend's running the race and you're supporting them, where you can see them come by 4 times before the finish? I mean, that's, to me, that's amazing.
It is the 30th running of the People's United Bank Vermont City Marathon, so we certainly want to celebrate the runners, the volunteers, all the past champions. So we have a number of things that are happening. So we are having Meb Keflezighi come, and iconic runner, amazing human being who's coming to help celebrate with us. And so we are putting together Meb's team, people who have some amazing stories of their own to run with him, and so we're excited about that. We are going to be having a block party on Church Street on Saturday late afternoon, early evening, and that'll be right in front of Ben & Jerry's, and that really is going to be a celebration of past champions and past and present volunteers, and as a way to say thank you for helping us make this happen, because it really, so much of this event couldn't happen without the volunteers. We have a small staff. Anywhere from 4 to 7 of us are in the office working year round, but then it's 1,700 volunteers over race week and race weekend make this event happen. So it's celebrating them as well as celebrating the runners. And so we're excited to have Ben & Jerry's back this year. So I'll be serving Ben & Jerry's at the finish line. Vermont is known for its beer, so we've got 14 Star Brewery and Queen City Brewery and Zero Gravity Brewery will be serving local beers at the finish for the runners and volunteers alike. So really trying to have the race really mirror what Vermont is all about.
I think what's really important, and the reason why the race is the 30th, has gone 30 years, is because of the continuity. I think one of the things that's made it possible is the real deep friendships that have developed among those who have been part of the marathon. Many of my best friends here in Burlington are those I worked with in the race, and I think that makes sense because everybody's in it for reasons other than themselves. You really have fun working with people, and you're creating something with them. So there have been a number of really strong friendships that started and have continued from that race, and I think that really helps maintain it and help it grow.
So what you're going to be doing is a stability ball leg curl. This is going to develop strength in the hamstrings, the glutes, and the low back. Also going to be good for developing core stability. What you're going to be doing is contracting your core, and as you do that, you're going to lift the hips up and curl the ball in towards you, and slowly back out. Without touching the mat, you repeat, bring it right back up. Excellent.
I was able to run my distance run of 18 miles by taking short walk breaks, and had planned on doing that for the marathon. But this weekend I ran 10 miles with no foot pain, and for the first time in weeks I'm feeling very optimistic about the marathon.
So tell me about today's run. How far are you going, and why did you choose this route?
So today we're attempting 16 miles as part of our initial taper for the marathon. We chose a route that's out in Colchester down Middle Road because it's a dirt road that we're looking to do. We're going to do an out and back, depending on what it looks like. Neither of us has been down this path before, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
And Christy, you're reintroducing mileage, some longer runs now.
Yep, I'm feeling a bit better, and so we've decided to do some dirt roads because my physical therapist said it'd be easier on the foot, and so I'm hoping to do 16 today.
Maybe if I mix it with goat cheese and walnuts, it would be spectacular. Nice day for okay.
Tell me your thoughts on the run. How did it go?
So I think it went pretty well. My foot only was hurt a little bit, but overall went really well. It was slow and steady and hilly. Beautiful course.
Yeah, beautiful course. It was great to be out, have a nice day for running.
Yeah.
Perfect weather. Beautiful scenery and a little hilly, but it's good for us. It's good for us.
Yeah.
So in preparation for VCM and looking toward that big weekend in May, I had signed up for the Unplugged half marathon from Colchester to Burlington, as many people do, using that as a warm-up run for VCM. The weather was a little rough that day, cold and windy. My body wasn't really up to snuff that day. I did finish that half marathon, but it wasn't easy. And as I ran that and finished it, I really wondered if I was going to be ready to run VCM just 4 to 6 weeks later. In the meantime, I was offered a new temporary job with the town of Shelburne that was going to be very much full-time and more, and that was going to cut into my training regimen. And then combined with that, I had set up a vacation out in Banff and Jasper in the heart of the Canadian Rockies. And one night while researching things to do out there, I discovered that the Banff Marathon was going to happen on the second weekend we were out there. So all of these things combined, I wondered really, was my body going to be ready? Could I really run 2 marathons in the space of 3 weeks of time? I was really excited about VCM. I was committed to doing it. It was the 30th anniversary, big celebration. But again, really wondering if all these elements in life were conspiring, and not necessarily in bad ways, but often we need a plan B and sometimes a plan C. And I decided that maybe going to Plan B was the right thing to do. So I talked with the folks at Run Vermont and offered to be race photographer again, and wondered if I should really try to run that event. So decided I wasn't going to run VCM, that I would focus on being race photographer for that wonderful event, and focus my sights and my efforts and my training on Banff in June, and look to that as my big goal for the year.
I just eat the same as I would for any run? Same breakfast I would for any
don't change a thing.
day? Okay.
Yeah.
Same as I would for a half marathon?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's the
And hydrate.
it's the what you eat leading up. So everything you eat prior to Sunday is going to be most effective at fueling you on Sunday.
Okay.
Your morning breakfast, it just kind of tops off your glycogen stores.
Yeah.
So while you're sleeping, your liver is using some glycogen, and the breakfast will replenish that.
Okay.
So it doesn't need to be
It's
anything
not gonna
elaborate. Yeah.
do anything from it. It
Yeah.
just keeps me from feeling hungry.
Exactly. Yeah.
No crying.
No, unless it's tears of joy. When you're running hills, keep your exertion level the same. So in other words, when you come to a hill, don't speed up to try and maintain your pace. Keep the same perceived exertion level, so your pace will slow down.
Yeah.
But that's going to help you recover better from when you get to the top,
Right.
and from the miles after
So
that.
I'm not gasping for the next mile.
Yeah, and getting back to I mentioned the bike path being a lot of shaded areas. When you're out on the course, look for shady spots too. I mean, you don't want to go way out of your way,
Yeah.
but if you see coming up that you're kind of running in the center of the road and the left side looks a little more shady, then you're over to the left a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't want to do a dramatic, weaves or anything
Run
to get
through
there.
some
but,
neighborhood.
yeah.
Oh, there are trees down.
Yeah, I mean, and just have fun, just so much energy out there, the taiko drummers, spectators cheering, the Lakewood Parkway off North Avenue, you do a loop through the, that's always so festive. I thought through
That
there.
was fun.
Yeah.
I think it's a 10.
First moving was the hot air balloon that I had engaged to have suspended over the belt line to add something new, to get some new photographic images.
I did run Boston the year 1989, and when Gordon and Larry Cable contacted me, I wasn't really interested in running the race, but they talked me into it. I told them I was pretty beat up and probably couldn't finish. And they said, well, that's okay, don't worry about it. Just show up and run as far as you want. Okay. A few days later, the free press, there's a story. Joe Price is the favorite. It says Portland McFarland, race director.
Here goes the first Vermont female to win Vermont City Marathon. That was something I was really proud of.
This race has given me so much. In the 8 years that I ran the marathon, and I'm not even sure how many years I've been relay.
So that's about it for the timeline. Can I just have all the Hall of Famers, charter and otherwise, raise your hands and be recognized? Yeah, tomorrow.
right, it's 6:40, 20 minutes before the start. How are you feeling today?
Excited. I love race day. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get this done. That's how I'm feeling.
I feel pretty good.
I'm almost blank. I'm so scared. Haven't been able to eat for over 24 hours. I don't know. No thoughts. Finishing.
Good morning, guys. You made it. Mile 3. And you're all smiling. That's so nice. For those of you that are still waking up, it's race day. I don't know if you knew that. Good morning.
They're like 10 or whatever. You don't have much day.
female side. Get ready to make some noise. There's your work for Saye and 242.23. Watch the finish line. That's our last female.
I fell coming off a speed bump.
21 miles, right?
Just did my ankle. Decided it was best to stop by the time I got to the end of Church Street, because it wasn't getting any better. Now I have ice.
People's United Bank Vermont City Marathon, rated one of the top 10 marathons by Runners World in the country. You have 3.5 minutes to break 4:30.
Scott Milgram, Todd Griffin, Kelsey Ostrander, David Peak, David Pilsheimer, Pat McCann from Dorchester, the Porters from Boston, Mass, the Gang Green from Burlington.
Coming down that chute, you got 50 yards around that chute. Look what's going on. They're coming in groups. Wyatt O'Hara, come on in, smile toward that camera. Rousey, Terry Bridgeport, good morning. Smile for the camera. You got it. Look at their smiles. Look at that.
Still smiling at 4:27. Amazing, amazing.
3.5 minutes to break 4:30. 3.5 minutes to break 4:30.
Yeah, buddy! You did it! Good job.
Although I was initially disappointed at not completing the marathon, after a week or two, after thinking about it, I was able to get some perspective, and one of my big takeaways is that I'm not done. I was having 65 as an age cutoff, and now I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to run a marathon, and the age doesn't matter. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have thought I could run a 5K, much less train for a marathon. Running has pushed me outside of my comfort zone, and it's made me a stronger person.
So after having some injury during the training period, I sort of went into VCM with an open mind. Wasn't sure how I was going to do, and after the first couple miles I started having some pain, and so I decided just to sort of take it as a training run for the 100K, and luckily I have this great running buddy who was able to keep my spirits up throughout the run, and you know, it wasn't my best VCM, but we had a good time. We managed to have a little bit of a good time, and by the end, VCM, I've done lots of VCMs, and the finish line was just so powerful and amazing.
I had a good run through VCM this year. I always love doing VCM in the spring. It kind of reinforces why I spent all those cold months in the winter running to get ready for summer. It really starts off the summer season nicely, I think. I felt good for the run, for all of it, other than feeling bad for my running buddy. But I'm glad to hear that some of it was fun for you at least, because I had a great time. Yes, the crowds are amazing. They always are. I think, you know, it was a really nice day for spectating, so I think that helped people coming out, and it was great. It was a great run. It was a lot of fun. Today is our final long race, or training run, sorry, before the race. The race is in 3 weeks, 100 kilometers, our first attempt. So today we're attempting a 30-mile training run. We're starting here in Richmond. I'm gonna kind of go around and then up the beautiful Camel's Hump, get some good elevation and some trails in there on what is probably the hottest day of the year so far. So it'll be an experience.
Thank you.